For me, one of my favorite takeaways was, I think Paul Schrader pointed out the fact that we are now free of the need to succeed. The whole conversation was partially driven by the reality that now the barriers to entries have fallen. The cost of both creation and distribution have opened up the gates to everybody. And what are the results of that? What does that mean?
It's never been easier to get your stuff out there, to make stuff, to put it out there, but yet it's never been harder to kind of like make a living at it and have help. But I think no matter what your business model is, having that direct connection with your audience is the only way I see to move forward, and that brings with it its own challenges.
That's of course the upshot of the digital age is that anyone can put their work out there. And now with digital technology, we'll know who all the greatest filmmakers are in the world, because anyone can pick up a camera as if it were a pen and a piece of paper. But I think if he was being completely honest, he would have said, now we'll also know who all the worst filmmakers in the world are, because when anyone has access to a medium, there's very little quality control.
95% of all artists don't make a living. Filmmakers have been accepted from this over the last 100 years because we operated under a capitalist model where you could only make films if the films made money. Now you can make films that fail. So it is now possible for a filmmaker to join the ranks of poets, artists, and musicians, who 95% of whom don't make a living.
It took a lot of discipline when I was in my 20s for me not to make a film. And that almost became my goal, as everyone else around me was trying to make a film. Because, I thought I didn't have anything to say, and which in retrospect I think is the only thing that I've done, which I'm most proud of, is not make a film and not put out there in my 20s.
Is the opportunity for, let's use like the language of the internet, since I'm living in Silicon Valley, the opportunity for rapid prototyping, for making small bets, for gaining audience response to the work in stages, moving into stage financing, adopting what Austin, promotes as showing your work and sharing your work. Does that offer an opportunity to expand the pool, to diversify the creative class and the audience, and with that, start to deliver stories for, underserved audiences?
That may be, the new way for someone like Mailer or Sontag or Auster, who was defeated by the concept of commercial cinema, to participate in audiovisual storytelling.
How do I make things and then still be out there? Like how do I protect what I need for my process, but then also have myself out in the world connecting with the community? To me, that is where the real opportunity for the artist is, which is how you can figure out how all this social media and the new technology, how it can actually feed your art instead of taking away from it.
And artists need a quiet space to work. Even producers need a quiet space to work. And, it's getting harder and harder because of all these fragments of content. And, especially now if you're making serial work, and that's why I go back to, the feature film is kind of for me, it's still the ideal artistic art form, because there's a beginning, a middle, and end, and you can conceive it in a perfect circle.
Is it the responsibility of other artists to make sure that there's greater diversity in the field?
No, it's the responsibility of financiers who are financing these films. One of the films as a producer that I've had on my slate the longest is a film with a black lead and an Asian American lead. And the third and fourth characters are white guys. And it's been impossible to finance. And I think there's this perception that, films with people of color in it, films with starring women, will not make any money. And you go to sales agents and you go to financiers and you go to studios, and they'll all tell you the same thing. Can you please make these characters white so that we can try to make some money off of this movie?
More than ever, maybe it's just that no matter what stripe you come from, or what race, or whether you're a man or a woman, your responsibility now more than ever is to make universal stories. To find the universal heart of a story, whether you can do it in hiding or in public view. But that responsibility is greater now than it was before.
How do we break out of that cultural homogeny where it's always the same that is getting picked up, that people are basing it on past successes? How do we start to find something new and fresh?
I think one way to do it as an artist is to just jump on and share something that you really love, and to take on that role of curator yourself, because the whole notion of word of mouth, that's what it is. It's people talking to each other. And so I think artists themselves need to take on that role of curator and share the stuff that they like.
One of the conversations that I have regularly with people is that women's stories are already missing from the feature conversation. Only 6% of the movies, the top 250 grossing movies last year in the US, were directed by women. So what this new world is an opportunity for us to bring in voices that have been left out of the model that has existed in the past. And as all people who are thinking about this move forward, have to think about how we include more women's voices in this conversation, so that we tell so more stories are included.
There are other audiences out there, and if Hollywood can figure out how to make a mid-range budget movie and not spend $100 million marketing it, we might gradually be able to go back to something more like the time when there were other kinds of movies being made.
With $200 million, I can make 400 movies with that. And it's sort of like, I don't understand why they're putting all their eggs in one basket. I mean, we had so many tentpole failures last summer.
You're making movies in America, you have to kind of be down and dirty with the money in a way that you don't necessarily in a system where the government of the country is invested in art in a way that they're not here. And that doesn't just apply to filmmaking, it applies to all the arts. We don't just think our tax dollars should be going there.
We have now raised an entire generation that doesn't want to pay for what it gets. I was just talking with David Byrne, and he said, none of my friends pay for music anymore. And that's going to be the new film generation. Nobody wants to pay for anything. So how does capitalism work if everybody thinks it should be free?
Just to give you an example, with specific numbers, my first Sundance feature, Children of Invention, was made for $150,000. I, as a producer, got paid $7,500 for over 3 years of work because I self-distributed that movie, and it was a it was a nightmare. And literally, a week before we started shooting, I had to take a commercial producing job for 2 days, and then the week we were wrapping, I had to take another commercial producing job and take jobs doing budgets and boards. So it's really, you can't make a living making movies. It's very, very, very difficult.
On one hand, it's very hard to support yourself. You need that second job. On the other hand, I think we're freer now than we've ever been. We don't have to make movies for the mass market. We don't have to make movies that are limited by the feature film form. We have billions, it seems, of platforms available to us to distribute our work. We can connect directly with our audiences and turn them into communities. We can create as often as we like or as seldom as we like. It seems on one hand, it really is the best of times.
I think the feature film form, as much as it might be in a little bit of trouble now, it's an opportunity for a filmmaker to reimagine themselves in a way that a short film form or sort of serialized television doesn't allow. And the reason why this business and why existing in it is so challenging is exactly that, because and I think for audiences even who are interested in a filmmaker's work, they go into every film because they like his work, but they also go into it to test him, to see if he has been able to reinvent himself in a positively gratifying way each time.
The episode of Reinvent Hollywood on the artists provided a great segue into Reinvent Hollywood, the audience. Audiences are built by the content that they consume and participate in. As creators, they no longer need to go directly to the studios for their financing and distribution, but can build early and long-lasting relationships with the consumers of their work, with their audience, and through that work, transform them into community. It really was a change where you start to see the barrier between creator and audience start to dissolve. For me, it was exciting to hear folks on both the side of critics, creators, and facilitators, all to be very savvy on that challenge that is facing us at this opening of opportunity that brings new questions both to the art and to the business.